Hey everybody, welcome back. It's been a while. I've missed you guys. You know what show I really liked as a kid? Get Smart. I know it was before my time, but it was on Nick at Night, and I really enjoyed it. Not just because I thought it was funny, or because Barbara Feldon was just gorgeous, but I thought the story was interesting. It's an incompetent spy who can't do a single thing right, and yet, episode after episode after episode, he beats the bad guys. And it's always kind of interesting to watch and figure out, how is he going to win despite being a complete idiot? I thought it was an interesting concept that was done well. You want to see that same interesting concept done poorly? Then let's take a look at the Walt Disney film they thought we'd never remember. No, not Song of the South. This is Condorman. No, I didn't add those weird sounds, nor do I know what they're supposed to be. Our opening credits come complete with a cartoon, just so you kids at home know that this is going to be a wild and exciting adventure. You know, Disney, it's wrong to lie to children. Our story really begins at the Eiffel Tower, where world-famous comic book artist and writer, although I'll just refer to him as an artist from now on, but to be very clear, he also writes his own material. Woody is about to leap off of the Eiffel Tower to test his flying suit. Not sure how he got permission, because he's not leaping from like the very top observation deck. He's leaping from somewhere in the middle where I'm pretty sure tourists aren't allowed to go. Kind of like to have been on that phone call. Hey, French people, is it okay if I go to a part of your tower where normally the public's not allowed and then try to jump off and save myself using a flying suit I designed at home? Then again, they probably would say yes, because one less stupid American, am I right? And the test is a success! Mostly. So now it's up to his best friend to console him on the failure of his project.
You're a great cartoonist, and you're a great comic book writer. But you're a lousy bird. I mean, you could have got yourself killed.
You bring this up now? You didn't want to have this argument with him before? I gotta be honest with you. Look, if I developed a flying suit, even my friends who have seen me come up with millions of off-the-wall bizarre ideas would not let me test it by jumping off a building. It's because they're my friends. They like me. They'd help me find a homeless person to test it on first.
That's the way I create. You know that. If Condorman can't do something in real life, then I won't have him do it in one of my comic books.
This is going to be one of my main recurring issues with this film. Woody claims that he writes from the truth. He can never put anything in a comic book that he has not tested in real life, because the kids would know if he lied. Same kids buy Superman comics and never saw Star Chart of Krypton, but okay. He only writes the truth, which is why he was out there testing a flying suit. He's creating this comic called Condorman, and apparently he's a world-famous artist, so everybody's hot for this Condorman thing. Even though it hasn't come out yet, it's the talk of the town. Condorman has a flying suit. So now, after you've created Condorman, you've decided to test the flying suit. And if it didn't work, which by the way it didn't, you created a bird-based superhero, claim that you can't put anything in the comic that's not in real life, and then after you've created this concept, then you go to test the concept to find out it didn't work. That's not how it follows logically. If you need it to be real in order to create the comic book, you can't make the comic book first. Maybe you should have made him Emu Man. Start out simple. Start out with the flightless bird.
Go home. New England's nice this time of year. Relax. Take it easy. Condorman would find enough excitement in New York City to last a lifetime.
No. Besides, Superman's got the Big Apple sewn up.
Okay, I don't normally get this nitpicky in a film, but Superman was not from New York. He was from Metropolis. I would not expect a comic book genius to know this tiny minuscule fact. It turns out Woody's best friend Harry works for the CIA, which is important and all to the plot, but is it just me, or does every single line of dialogue that Woody speaks in this movie sound like it was dubbed in later?
Cloak and dagger, secret missions.
After rushing to work, Harry is handed a new assignment. See, there are some documents that we have to get to the Russians. Not sure why, especially since the Russians are the bad guys in this movie. It's never addressed either why we're giving secret documents to the Russians, but okay. We have to get some secret documents to the Russians in Istanbul. And they've requested that it be carried out by civilians. Why civilians? We don't know. Main characters don't even know. They ask, no answer. So now it's up to Harry to find a civilian willing to risk his life to play secret agent and deliver these secret documents to the Russians. The only part you need to focus on here is it has to be a civilian who's willing to do this dangerous task. Where's Harry going to find somebody crazy enough to want to undertake a secret mission with no training and no backup?
Of all the stations in all the world.
This is not going to end well. You would have been better off sending these guys.
We've got a very special assignment for you two. Boy.
Now remember, Woody got this job because the Russians specifically requested a non-agent, even though he's delivering documents to a KGB agent. A non-agent. His only job is to walk into this place, deliver these papers, and then walk out without making a fuss and without drawing attention to himself. That's it. Simple.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm a bit unsteady. It was jet lag. Oh, train lag.
Missed it by that much.
Yeah, in order to impress the hot Russian spy chick, Woody claims to be the top secret agent Condorman, thus going completely contrary to the mission parameters, which is be a civilian, don't draw attention to yourself, deliver these papers. Now he's drawn attention to himself, claimed to be a spy, and barely gets the papers delivered by the end of this scene. This is why perhaps civilians aren't your best choice for spy work. This fight scene is a bit of a disappointment. It's meant to come across as he doesn't know what he's doing and accidentally wins against like these 4 guys, which could be really entertaining to watch. I mean, you can imagine in your head like Jackie Chan accidentally winning a fight against 4 guys while just like fumbling and bumbling with a briefcase. You can picture that, right? It's actually kind of cool. Doesn't work here. It starts out, the first couple seconds is, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. But then it becomes way too smooth automatically. I'm a civilian. I have no training. I even wrote a comic book at one point. I can't get anybody to draw it, but I wrote one. So I'm like this guy, right? We're like in simpatico. You put me up against 4 scary spies from an enemy power. I'm not going to last 5 seconds in that fight. And I'm pretty scrappy. But they're trained killers and they outnumber me and they have weapons. Yeah, I'm not buying this. While hot spy chick learns that her boss is kind of a jerk, Woody is obsessed. And he's just drawing all of these images of her, and he ends up adapting her into a character in his Condorman comic book, Laser Lady. And I'm sure he tested several lasers before he created that character, because he only writes the truth. An unspecified amount of time later, seriously, there's no way to know if it's been days, weeks, months. There's nothing. There's no reference at any point to tell us where we went from one part of the story to the next. But Harry's boss comes back and says, hey, we've got this hot spy chick who wants to defect, but she's only willing to defect if we send in a secret agent whose codename is Condorman.
I want you to go through every file we've got and find out who has been using the code name Condorman.
This is going to be embarrassing. Because see, Harry's going to have to admit, whoops, that was my best friend, and he screwed up the mission we sent him on and said he was a spy. And then the CIA is going to have to decide whether or not to just abandon the defector or send in other agents to extract her kind of against her will. I mean, she wants extraction, but she wants Condorman to do it. Because there's no way the CIA is going to send in a civilian to do this ridiculously tricky task of extracting a Russian defector, right? The CIA just wouldn't do that. It was bad enough that they were sending in a civilian to deliver papers, but this is an actual mission. It's like risky, and there'll be like gunfire. They can't send a civilian. This is going to be so embarrassing when they realize we got to do something other than send in the comic book writer.
Are you serious?
Hey, that's my line. Of course they send in Woody. Why wouldn't they? Woody refuses to go because he's a civilian and it could be dangerous.
I'm sorry.
Excuse me, Mr. Woody, sir. You're refusing to participate in a spy operation that's a direct result of the last spy operation that you participated in that you really got a kick out of and you met the hot chick. You remember that spy operation? The one that was a simple delivery, but then you turned it into this whole cloak and dagger thing by claiming to be a secret agent even though you weren't? You remember that thing that happened that you were so happy to agree to and that nothing bad happened to you as a result of? So you're not willing to do this mission because it's very similar to this other mission that you were super eager to do. I'll do this, but I won't do this. When it's finally revealed that it's hot spy chick that's the one that wants defecting, Woody, of course, agrees instantly. But he tells the CIA, I'm going to need some gadgets. And he hands them over all of the drawn pages of his comic book and says, you know, make me this stuff from my comic book. This is going to be a little convoluted. Hold on. Hold on to your hat. He only writes stuff that is true. He won't put in that Condorman can fly until he tests a flying suit, despite the fact that he had to have drawn Condorman flying first because it was Condorman. But that's not what he says. He only puts the truth in. So how is he able to take these gadgets and give them to the CIA, who, by the way, looks at these things and goes, we can't make this stuff. This stuff's ridiculous. And then ends up making it. How can you take stuff from a comic book, hand it to the CIA, and then they make the stuff? That's the exact opposite of how you told us in one of the very first lines of the movie how your method works. You said you only create stuff, you only draw stuff that is real. You can't have that as your creed, and then you take the stuff you've drawn and make it real. You're doing it backwards. That's the exact opposite of your creed. Do you understand? I only draw stuff that's real. Except, here's the stuff I've drawn. I need you to make it real. And so, our grand adventure begins, as all adventures do, in Yugoslavia, where Condorman and Hot Spy Chick meet up, and I'm sure they'll just walk peacefully to the extraction point. There'll be no hijinks or adventures whatsoever.
Condorman does not carry a gun. It is against my code.
What?
Guns scare me. The noise. All I carry is my trusty old cane.
And he's the shakiest gun in the West.
That cane easily shot over 100 bullets, by the way. I can't even begin to imagine where it's hiding all of the ammo. Although, it must hide it somewhere, because it's based off the comic books, which are based off the truth. Eager to get his spy back, the evil Russian master spy guy, who it's hinted had a little bit of a history with her, he decides to recruit the most terrifying group of Russian secret agents ever. I mean, these guys go into town and like all of the townsfolk hide and lock their doors. So not really secret agents, since everybody seems to know who they are. But they're so terrifying, I can't even pronounce their name because it's in Russian. And that's how you know there's some scary motherfuckers. While driving along in their beat-up old truck, the scary Russian guys show up in black sports cars, leading us to probably the only actual cool part of the movie. Now, I could probably pick that apart 5 ways from Sunday. I mean, you're using technology that didn't exist at the time that the film was made. Again, you created your vehicle based off a comic book, which had to be based off real life, except the car didn't exist before the comic book. The fact that yellow might not be the best color for a spy car. Blah, 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 blah. Honestly, it was kind of cool. I'll give it a pass. What follows is a fairly long car chase sequence that mimics anything you've ever seen in a James Bond film. I mean, it's gadgets shooting out the car, dodge, weave, taking out the opposition one car at a time. Honestly, if you've seen a James Bond film, you've seen this car chase. So, you know, I don't need to show it to you. It even ends in a fairly typical James Bond fashion. Cutting short a lot more James Bond stuff, our heroes end up in a small town where they're joined by Harry. Hey, an actual trained operative is joining this spy group. Fantastic. The bad guys are chasing them, and they end up cornered in a wedding, as you do. And they've now got a problem, because how are they going to get out of this wedding without the agents getting them and, you know, killing them? Hot Spy Chick has a solution.
This man is already married. And to whom is this man married? To me.
Well, it was nice of her to announce that in English, since everything else in that wedding ceremony up till then had been Spanish, and luckily everybody seems to speak English, so that's a bonus. Yay, America. But did she have to ruin that guy's life? Because you know the bride's going to at least doubt him now. She couldn't have come up with... She could have faked a seizure. She could have picked a fight with anybody in the audience. But instead, she calls out the groom, ruining their day, ruining the wedding. By saying, you know, he's married to me and I've had his kid. She then very cleverly diverts the groom to beat up the head of the evil spy gang. By claiming it's her uncle who knows all the truth, and since he won't hit a woman, he starts beating on the guy. And in the ensuing fight, which, by the way, hot-tempered people apparently, because everybody starts duking it out. Even old ladies are tearing at each other's throat for no reason that I can tell, because nobody there is related to the spy guys. They managed to make their escape. Again, though, ruined that wedding. Ruined! Could not have come up with a different way to create a distraction. They're in a small town in the Alps, where all of the kids in town have an issue of Condorman featuring Laser Lady. And they all instantly recognize that Hot Spy Chick is Laser Lady. And they show her the comic. And now she knows the truth about Condorman. And this is where I kind of wish I had a better idea of the time scale. Because when this mission began, he had just created Laser Lady, so he hadn't even really finished a full issue. And yet, not only is this issue out midway through his adventure, but it's so popular that literally every kid in this village has a copy. I don't know if it's the first issue or what. It just seems a little too much, you know? But I think we all know where the story's going to go from here. She's learned that Condorman was lying to her the whole time, that he's not a spy, that he's a comic book artist, and she was just starting to fall in love with him and his debonair style and abilities. But now she learns that he's lied to her and betrayed her. So, we know what's going to happen, right? She's going to get angry, and she's going to throw a hissy fit in front of him or just storm off in secret. And in that act of storming off, she's going to get captured by the enemy agents, leading Condorman and his buddy to have to go rescue her, and in doing so, earning back her trust. Because, yeah, he still lied to her, but now he's risked his life to save hers, which he's already done 1,000,000 times. But it counts this time because they just had a fight. We know that's where this is going, right? Actually, she demands answers of Harry, who very calmly explains everything to her while she listens. And afterwards, she's okay with it all. That's one of the most shocking things I've seen in a movie in a very long time. I mean, the car thing was kind of cool, but this actually avoided a trope. It did. It saw this path coming and went, you know what? I'm going to take the path less traveled. So, honestly, I'm not a big fan of this movie. But I will give it this moment. Good job, Condorman. Good job.
When I go to America and start reading the Sunday funnies and eating my Big Mac and planning for the senior prom,
You may have missed the prom.
I would like it very much if I could pick up my American telephone, call my friend Woody, and say, come over and be democratic with me.
I'll bring the dip if you bring the Dostoevsky.
I'll bring the dip if you'll bring the Dostoevsky. This woman learned that you've been lying to her the entire time, which means you've put her in harm's way even more than she thought, because she's risking her life for a civilian who doesn't have any skills, supposedly, despite the fact that he's pulling this all off. She reaches out to you. She basically says, hey, when this is all over, you want to grab a drink. And that's your response? What does that even mean?
That's a yes.
Oh, well, okay then. As one of their last tricks to escape the Russians, Woody pulls out one of the last inventions made. It's a jet-powered reverse ski lift thingy. You hook it onto the ski lift cables and you just ride right up. It says jet-powered, although you never see turbines or jets or flames coming out of it. They seem mechanically powered, but that's fine. And again, the whole concept of designing something from the comic book that can only be designed from real life. But more importantly, why did you design in your comic book that can only have stuff based on real life a device for a hero who can fly? Condorman can fly. Why does he need a jet-powered reverse ski lift thingy? He can fly. The beautiful and surprisingly slow jet-powered reverse ski lift thingies, well, they stop working when they come under fire from snipers. The Russians shoot Harry and Woody out of the sky. They collapse to the ground far, far below, grab Hot Spy Chick, and off they go. Of course, the fall doesn't kill our heroes. I'm guessing because they landed in some very deep snow? Not sure that that's how that would work, though. I live in Texas, so I can't conduct this experiment on my own because snow is the thing I heard of once in a fairy tale. But if somebody would like to email the Mythbusters and request that they do a very special episode based on the movie Condorman, I will just sit back and wait for that episode to happen. So Woody and Harry get into disguises and break into the evil Russian spy guy's fancy dress party to steal back Hot Spy Chick. You remember how this movie started with cartoons? I miss that. Oh man, that's not what I meant when I said I missed it. Also, I hate to bring physics into it at this point in the game, but I am positive that rig could not support the weight of 2 people. I would be surprised if it could support the weight of 1. You don't need to call the Mythbusters on this one. I'm confident. I stand by that this is busted. So, as our film wraps up, we get another James Bond-esque ending sequence. It's another car chase sequence, except it's on the water. So, it's exactly like a car chase sequence, only on the water. Oh, yes. And the boat shoots lasers.
Would you believe it?
No. No, I wouldn't. So we've just completely abandoned the idea of the reality-based superhero now, right? Anyway, our heroes get away, and our final scene is them celebrating with a baseball game at Dodger Stadium, because America. And Harry's boss sets up a ridiculously obvious plot hook for a sequel, which tragically we never got. The end. This movie had a germ of a good idea at the beginning. The concept of a comic book writer being thrown into an actual spy adventure and forced to rely not on his skills and abilities, but his imagination as a comic book writer to try and find a way out of it. That is an interesting concept. I think you could make a decent film out of that. But they didn't try. That whole concept is abandoned really about the time that first fight sequence breaks out. Because after a few seconds of that fight sequence, he's suddenly very competent as a fighter. And from there on, he's amazingly competent as a spy, except for the last funny scene, the last scene where there's any humor in the movie at all, or where they even play with this concept, is the cane firing sequence. And that's maybe 30 minutes in. Maybe. And then the last hour of the movie, he's James Bond. I mean, he's just a generic spy who has access to all these really cool toys. He never sets a foot wrong. He never has any issues. Hell, even when the girl finds out he's been lying to her, there's no issues. Which, again, I like that they didn't go down that road. But I would have liked for there to have been some drama somewhere coming from the fact that he's a comic book writer who pretended to be a spy. There are no consequences to that. At all. The consequence for him breaking the mission parameters in the beginning is getting another mission, which he succeeds in every step of the way. The comedy disappears 30 minutes in. The entire concept the film is based on is gone about the same time. And again, the whole premise for why he was able to do this stuff is because he experiments with everything so he can put it in the comic books, except all of the elements in the movie are taken from the comic books, not the reverse. It would have worked better if after this adventure, he sat down and created the Condorman comics based on the adventures he had. That's in keeping with the creed that he came up with at the beginning, right? Where I only write the truth. Well, hell, now you've gone on an adventure. Should have been a movie about a guy struggling to come up with his next big comic idea. And then he gets the answer, you know? They had an interesting concept. They did. They had something that would be fun to play with. And then they threw it away and wrote a James Bond movie. So, that's all I've got for this one. But, tune in next time, because the next video will be the 50th episode of WTF Cinema. And I've got something special planned for you guys. See you then. Our story, spelled out story in my notes because apparently I don't know how to type anymore. Terrifying group. Group. I'm going to try that again.